Have you ever argued with someone you love only to discover later that neither of you actually meant to hurt the other? What if some of the biggest conflicts in relationships aren't caused by bad intentions at all but by simple misunderstandings? The truth is, a single misunderstood word, a moment of silence, or an unanswered message can damage trust, create emotional distance, and even end relationships. Yet most people never learn what a misunderstanding really is or why it happens. In this video, you'll discover what misunderstandings truly are, why they happen so often, and how understanding them can completely change the way you communicate with the people you care about. Before we begin, if you enjoy content that helps you build healthier relationships and improve your communication skills, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. Now, let's begin. What a misunderstanding really is. A misunderstanding is one of the most common challenges people face in relationships, yet it is also one of the most misunderstood problems. Many people think a misunderstanding is simply an argument or a disagreement. Others believe it only happens when someone says something hurtful or behaved badly. In reality, a misunderstanding is much deeper than that. It happens when one person interprets another person's words, actions, intentions, or silence differently from what was actually meant. In simple terms, a misunderstanding occurs when the message a person intends to send is not the same as the message the other person receives. The sender may have good intentions, but the receiver understands the message in a completely different way. This gap between intention and interpretation is where misunderstandings begin. Imagine a man comes home from work after a long and stressful day. He feels mentally exhausted and decides to sit quietly for a while before talking. His intention is not to ignore his wife. He simply needs a few moments to clear his mind. However, his wife notices his silence and begins to think that he is upset with her or that she has done something wrong. She becomes worried, then hurt, and eventually frustrated. By the time he is ready to talk, she is already emotionally affected by something that never actually happened. This is a misunderstanding. The problem did not begin because either person wanted to hurt the other. It began because one person's actions were interpreted differently from what they truly meant. Misunderstandings are often built on incomplete information. Human beings naturally try to make sense of situations even when they do not have all the facts. Instead of asking questions or seeking clarification, people sometimes fill in the missing pieces with assumptions. Unfortunately, assumptions are often influenced by emotions, fears, past experiences, or personal expectations rather than reality. For example, a young woman sends a message to her boyfriend asking if they can meet later that evening. Hours pass without a reply. She begins thinking that he is ignoring her or losing interest in the relationship. She replays previous conversations in her mind and starts connecting unrelated events. By the time he finally replies, explaining that he had been attending an important meeting where phones were not allowed, she has already experienced disappointment, sadness, and anger. The emotional pain was real, but it was based on an interpretation rather than the actual situation. This example shows that misunderstandings often grow because people respond to what they believe happened instead of what actually happened. It is also important to understand that misunderstandings are different from intentional wrongdoing. If someone deliberately lies, cheats, insults, or deceives another person, that is not a misunderstanding, it is a conscious choice. A misunderstanding usually happens without harmful intentions. It is an honest communication problem where the meaning is lost, changed, or wrongly interpreted. Think of two people looking at the same object from opposite sides. Each person describes what they see, and both descriptions are accurate from their own point of view. However, because their perspectives are different, they believe the other person is wrong. The problem is not that either person is lying. The problem is that neither person can see the full picture until they understand the other's viewpoint. Relationships work in a similar way. Every individual sees life through their own experiences. The words we use, the way we express emotions, our body language, our tone of voice, and even our silence can all carry different meanings depending on who is interpreting them. What seems normal to one person may seem hurtful, confusing, or disrespectful to another. Communication is much more than speaking. Every conversation contains both spoken and unspoken messages. A smile can communicate warmth. A frown can communicate concern or disappointment. A delayed response may communicate business to one person but rejection to another. A simple "I'm fine" can mean genuine contentment, or it can hide disappointment, depending on how it is said. Because communication involves so many elements, misunderstandings can happen even when people are trying their best to communicate honestly. Technology has made misunderstandings even more common. Text messages, emails, and social media conversations remove important parts of communication such as facial expressions, tone of voice, and body language. A short reply like "okay" may sound perfectly normal to the sender, while the receiver interprets it as cold, angry, or dismissive. Without seeing the person's face or hearing their voice, people often guess the emotional meaning behind the words, and those guesses are not always correct. Another reason misunderstandings happen is that every person carries invisible emotional baggage. Our childhood, family environment, education, culture, previous friendships, and past relationships all influence how we understand the world. Two people may hear the exact same sentence but attach completely different meanings to it because of their personal experiences. For instance, someone who grew up in a family where people openly discussed problems may see honest feedback as healthy communication. Another person who grew up in a home where criticism was harsh and constant may hear the same feedback as a personal attack. The words may be identical, but the emotional interpretation is completely different. This explains why solving misunderstandings is not simply about proving who is right or wrong. It is about discovering why two people understood the same situation differently. Instead of asking, "Who made the mistake?" the better question is, "How did we end up understanding this situation differently?" That question opens the door to learning instead of blaming. Many misunderstandings become serious because people react too quickly. When emotions take over, people often defend themselves before they fully understand the other person's intentions. They interrupt, accuse, raise their voices, or withdraw from the conversation. As emotions grow stronger, the original misunderstanding becomes buried beneath new arguments, making the real issue harder to identify. Healthy relationships recognize that misunderstandings are not signs of failure. They are opportunities to improve communication. Every misunderstanding reveals something valuable about the people involved. It may uncover unclear expectations, hidden fears, poor listening habits, emotional wounds, or communication styles that need adjustment. Instead of seeing misunderstandings as enemies, wise couples and families see them as invitations to understand each other more deeply. It is also worth remembering that no one is completely free from misunderstanding others. Every person has moments when they interpret situations incorrectly, assume too much, or fail to communicate clearly. Accepting this reality encourages humility. Rather than insisting, "I know exactly what you meant," we become willing to ask questions, listen carefully, and remain open. to correction. Ultimately, a misunderstanding is not simply a communication mistake, it is a difference between intention and interpretation. One person means one thing while another understands something else. The larger the gap becomes, the greater the conflict that can develop. The smaller the gap becomes, the healthier and stronger the relationship grows. Understanding what a misunderstanding truly is provides the foundation for resolving it. Once people recognize that misunderstandings often arise from different perspectives rather than bad intentions, they become more patient, more curious, and more willing to seek understanding before reaching conclusions. This mindset is the first and perhaps the most important step toward building relationships that are marked by trust, respect, and lasting peace. If this video helped you see misunderstandings in a new way, take a moment to reflect on one relationship where better understanding could make a real difference. If you found this content valuable, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who could benefit from it. Your support helps us create more content that strengthens relationships through wisdom, understanding, and practical communication skills. I'd also love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a misunderstanding that taught you an important lesson? Share your experience in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.